Hello, everybody, and I wanted to welcome our guest today. This is Brian. He's going to tell us a little bit about himself, but hopefully, you'll have a bit of an inspirational story today. Hello, and welcome, Brian.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. I'm honored to be one of your speakers for is it the some kind of teaching summit, correct?
Yeah, the Online Teaching
Yes.
Summit.
Okay.
Very cool. So, Brian, how did you get your start teaching online?
I'm going to backtrack to 2016. I was a teacher in South Korea from 2011 until 2016. And then towards the end of 2016, I got tired of teaching. I got tired of being in Korea. And I thought, let me go back to Portland, Oregon, where I'm from, born and raised, and start my like real life, as some people say. And so I, before I went back, I was traveling. I traveled like I think Hong Kong, Thailand, one or two other countries, because I didn't know when I could do that again, down the road. And I
Yep.
remember one night, I believe it's in Thailand, for some reason, I decided to look in my spam folder, my email spam folder for and I saw something that said like teach online for VIPKid. And I didn't think anything of it. I was like, okay, whatever. And then I passed out. Enjoyed the remainder of my travels, went back to Portland, Oregon. Um, what I had in mind didn't align with the reality of what Portland had become. A lot of people were moving into Portland. Job market was hectic. And I struggled. And I didn't really know what to do. I struggled for about 2 to 3 months. And then I went back to that email and I was like, okay, let me just give this VIPKid thing a try. And that was in January of 2017. And it was kind of like a last resort thing because it's not, again, I didn't want to go back into teaching. I wanted to look into something with curriculum, like curriculum development or something along those lines or anything. I kind of got desperate. And so I really liked it, like VIPKid. I kind of fell in love with it, and I kind of rode the wave until the wheels came off, unfortunately, in
Yeah.
2021, and then I kind of transitioned to private independent teaching. I also teach some Korean students as well through a very small online company in Korea. I believe there's only 3 or 4 teachers
Wow.
teaching with that company, and yeah, that's pretty much what I do, and that's how I started. It was not planned whatsoever, but I'm glad that it happened.
But you got your start, looks like going you were already over in Korea. So what were you just planning on traveling for a while and just got into working in Korea? Or how did your whole it's kind of like the digital nomad thing start for you?
Well, so after I taught for 6 months in Portland, and then with VIPKid, and I thought, okay, let me take this back to Korea, and then I went back because like I was doing like graveyard shifts there, and I really respect those that did not only VIPKid but just any kind of online teaching on the West Coast. I believe the hours are like the worst hours you can have for anyone who's in the States.
Yeah.
Brutal.
West Coast
So
is
respect
brutal.
to
Yeah.
Yeah, so respect to everyone who teaches in the States, especially on the West Coast. So after 6 months, I decided to bring it back to Korea. I did a bit of traveling. I'm really big into long distance cycling, so I would sometimes book short trips, like 2 to 3 days to various countries in Southeast Asia to do long distance cycling. And then I times, sometimes it was very like lenient towards teachers, so I didn't risk. I didn't reaching. Well, I knew where the network was stable. So for the most part, I just kind of taught in South Korea.
All right. Okay. Well, then it sounds like you've been doing it for a while now. What you said, 2016. So you must like something about it. What do you like the most about online teaching?
Um, I guess flexibility. Um, flexibility. the fact that to worry about things like student behavior. I guess student behavior still, but like you have the screen in front of you. So there's like that kind of aspect that you don't necessarily have to worry about. Um, just mainly the convenience, honestly, just the convenience. Like, you can wake up, roll out of bed, walk 10 feet or like 3 meters, to your computer and presentable, um, physically and mentally, and just computer and just teach.
Definitely. I love that too. Um,
Yeah.
so, so there's people watching this that are new to teaching. They might be thinking about getting into the online realm. What kind of advice do you have for individuals like that?
Um, so in terms of like gaining traction and getting student or in student base, I don't really have any advice. I feel like anything that I would say not carry any substance. My advice would be maybe to join one teaching programs that some have. I do think when you do get your students, treat them well, because I think word of mouth is the most powerful way and effective way to um, get more students. Even though like I was kind of set because I had like email and contact list when VIPKid went down, like I was okay, but I still got a lot of new students through word of mouth. I believe maybe at least a quarter of the current students that I teach were through word of mouth, students that I've never taught before, um, during VIPKid. So I think in terms of like getting students, like I just, you know, I don't advertise, I guess is what some of the teachers say, advertise on Little Red Book, WeChat, I think, or Douyin, which I think is the Chinese TikTok. That's what I hear some teachers talking about. And then once you get a few students, I guess just treat them well and just, like I said, word of mouth, I think is the way to go.
Okay, cool. So you mentioned a minute ago that you're currently teaching for a Korean company. Is that a physical school or is that online also?
That's also online. That kind of, I got really lucky with that, the timing on that. I saw someone post a small, like an advertisement in one of the Korean teaching Facebook groups, teaching via Zoom or like online. This was like literally when everything shut down, like in China. I think it was the month when everything shut down, and I was applied and I got um, hired. So I think I got really lucky. It was luck more than anything. So
That's cool. Yeah, it's sometimes yeah, you just gotta luck into these positions and some of these things that are out there. They just
yeah,
pop up and you find it, and you're the one of the beginning people in it.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, for a while there, like I think I first saw you on Instagram, Sunny's teacher or something. How did you get started doing all that with your Instagram stuff?
So I got to backtrack with that as well.
Yeah.
Um, I had a period of time in 2018 and 2019, again pre-COVID, where I got a lot of like I felt a deep sense of fulfillment teaching with VIPKid, and I wanted to well, initially I wanted to do some long distance cycling in China. And then so before going, I guess some students found out that I was visiting Beijing and Tianjin, and that's actually the cycling route that I had intended on cycling on. And then like slowly but surely, students started saying, "Oh, you're coming to Beijing, like can you meet me? Can you meet me?" And then it became a point where my schedule was full and I couldn't even do that cycling trip.
Oh,
But then
yeah.
that created another kind of like sense of like satisfaction, like wow, this is really cool to meet some of my students in person. And it was a new experience for everyone, right? Like the parents meeting someone online, like you had this interaction with the student, but obviously it's all digital, and then you meet him in person. It was a very unique experience for everyone. It was new, it was unique, and I kind of got um, addicted to that for a while. Like I met over 30 students, and Sunny was one of the students that I met. I posted a few videos, interactions that I had with him on, I think, Facebook and also on Instagram. He was this guy that had no filters, would swear whenever he wanted, but he did it in a way where the intonation and the tone was like what you would hear when someone is pissed off, like back home.
Mhm.
and the teachers just loved it. And like for me too, like I was just shocked. And so that's kind of how that started. And then that kind of started another thing after I meeting my students in person and then kind of posting on Instagram. And then COVID hit. And then I just started posting like not only Sunny, but just other just funny, cute, like just memorable interactions with some of my students. And so I was doing that and things are down. And then since then I've been pretty much inactive. But that's I love my or my Instagram, my teaching Instagram, I guess, for a period of a few years. So yeah,
Did you find that that gave you access to finding some new students, or was it just a creative outlet for you?
just a creative outlet. Like I just wanted to share with the teaching community, maybe like just also connect with some teachers because I know like so when teachers saw some of those videos, they're like, oh yeah, I totally have the student who does the same thing, or like, oh, student like like does this or does that. So just being able to interact with the teachers, I didn't really think of it as an outlet of trying to get like students. There have been a few teachers on Instagram who said like, oh, um, like, I'm not teaching online anymore. Like I have a student who's looking for a teacher. Could you maybe do a demo class? I've had like maybe a handful of teachers who have reached out and asked me for that. But like in terms of my intent was never really to, I guess after everything shut down, my intent was never really to look for students. Just to connect with the teaching community, pretty much.
Okay. So now you basically have your home base is in South Korea, correct?
Yes,
And
correct.
so
I
you
have a
sort of,
basically I have like a green card there.
oh, that's awesome. How did you manage that?
Well, my wife is Korean. We've been together. Oh wow, it'll be 13 years this month. Oh my God, it's been that long. But
Wow,
um, I was an exchange student also in South Korea for a year before I taught. So I was an exchange student in 2010, and just looking to have fun, and I wasn't expecting to like meet anyone seriously long term. And I met her there in South Korea. And so, yeah, I do have a green card. So I do have like a home. So that's what I call, I guess, home away from home. So, yeah.
that's awesome. Because a lot of teachers, I think that we all look at traveling and teaching, and this is a being able to teach online gives us that ability to travel. Do you get out a lot, or are you pretty much just between South Korea and Portland, as you said?
Just again, like it was just like neighboring countries when I did cycle and I knew like if I was staying there was a few places where I stayed in the Airbnb, particularly in like Japan, and I knew the Wi-Fi was like really good. And then I like opened up some slots or like teach. I did that a few times, I think in Japan and also in Taiwan. But I didn't really like go all out. Because again, I was, 'cause I know I'm sure there were some teachers before who were traveling and maybe the Wi-Fi was a bit spotty, and then they got maybe like IT issues that became maybe cancellations. And VIPKid, like the cancellation policy is pretty strict, and that's pretty much a losing battle. Um, in most cases. So like unless the Wi-Fi I knew was like good, like good enough or like almost for sure, like I didn't really want to take that risk. So,
Yeah. So is that kind of why you stopped traveling as much then? Is and try to and settle down?
well, like I guess again, so like planned on doing the Beijing to Tianjin cycling trip, but then like I kind of fell in love with meeting students. That kind of took over for a while in 2018 and 2019. And I always did want to like go back and like visit other countries and cycle, and then like COVID hit, and then that pretty much like shut everything down. And then like um, I now have a toddler. So like I don't think I'll be doing any like significant traveling or like cycling in the near future. So yeah,
It is tricky with that with the young ones. I think
yeah,
we
absolutely.
didn't really we waited. Mine was about 7 months old. We took a big trip, and then our next really big trip wasn't until he was almost two, and that was when we went to China for the first time. So
Oh, 7 months. Wow.
yes, so at
Wow.
7 months old, we went to the beaches and Virgin Islands and things like that. So that was his first passport stamp.
Nice.
So it can be done, but it's tricky. Yeah, you got to plan it out really
Challenging.
well.
It's yeah, absolutely, yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, yeah, I mean, diapers are an issue. We changed the diaper on the Great Wall. You do
Wow.
what you got to do.
I don't know if there's a lot of people that could say they've done that.
Well, there's a lot of photos on Chinese social media of my kid getting his diaper changed. But yeah, so traveling is a big thing for a lot of people. But how long did you travel bef before or during this whole thing? Was it just the 2018, 2019, or was it a little bit more before that? Because I know you said you were in South Korea before all that too.
Also 2017 as well. I think I did a bit of cycling tour like from the end of 2017 up until like late 2018, early 2019. So yeah, I did also some travel prior to like all that as well. But again, like the with the like teaching while traveling, unless I knew was pretty certain that the Wi-Fi was okay, like I didn't risk it. I didn't chance it.
Yeah, because that yeah, it is tricky. Now that you're a freelance teacher, you teach your own students. How do you manage your schedule?
Mm, so I teach Monday to Saturday. Monday to Friday is about 3 to 4 hours. And then Saturday I teach a little bit more, 4.5, 5 hours. Saturday is kind of like the middle school students and some high school students because their schedules are just you probably know, like it's hectic. So
Right.
like a lot of times they don't have time on during the weekdays or like they stay at school. I guess they stay like in
Mhm.
dormitories, and so they're only home on like Saturdays or Sundays. And then when they come back, a lot of times they have like this class, that class, this class, that class. And so yeah, I teach most of the middle schools, high school students that I have on the weekend, just on Saturday. Sunday it's just kind of time for myself or like spend with my wife or daughter, or do whatever we need to do. So yeah, in total, I think I'm about I don't know 25 hours, 25 give or take an hour or two a week. So,
That's pretty decent. And how many countries have you taught from?
okay, U.S. Hold on, I gotta think here. U.S., Korea, Japan, Taiwan. I think there's one more, but I can't remember. Four, but I think there's one more, but I can't. I don't remember. 4 or 5
Five. Okay.
in total.
The total. All right. Yeah. And it's always different. Like, how do you prepare? Like, some countries, yeah, I know that you have to have different plugs for your computer or your device. Um, and how do you prepare? Make sure that you have the right equipment or that the connection is going to be stable.
Well, connection I test before, like when I get there, I forget the website. Test my connection or test my IP or something.com. I use that. Um, for like the outlets, I always make sure I can carry them like always. Like never forget that. If you do, you're screwed, or you just don't teach. If you didn't like already open like your what you teach. Um, that's pretty much it though. I think like kind almost became like second nature to like remember to bring the correct like plugs and just test the internet there. You obviously ask beforehand, but just when you get there, test because you want to make you never know if what person says aligns with the actual reality of the situation. So that's pretty much it.
All right. All right. So when you were traveling, did you travel with anyone or you're pretty much solo traveler time?
Solo, especially like cycling because I kind of go at my own pace and I don't know, like if I travel with others, because cycling was kind of the my main focus. So like I just if someone like kind of dragged me down, not to like badmouth anyone in a bad way, but just I kind of wanted to go at my own pace. So I felt like I wasn't responsible for anyone else, or vice versa. So I'm only mainly solo.
Solo. Now, did you did you teach while cycling too? So did you like have your laptop in your backpack that you're on your cycle?
I did, but like I barely packed anything. Like I don't. It's not like I'm hauling like a huge duffel bag or like one of those big like hiking backpacks. Like I really kept it like to the bare like minimum basics.
I thought it was crazy because when I first started traveling, we did carry on only. We had one of the big, big backpacks each, and your personal item. But it's got to be even more minimalistic doing it on a cycle, especially teaching and making sure you have the right equipment and still keeping it light.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, like my backpack, it was a bit, bit heavier than what I would like, but like, it had to be done like that way. If not, like I'd be hauling like stuff that would like derail me or like prevent me from getting to where I need to go. So,
Yeah, that's interesting. That's probably a pretty cool story in itself. So, what was the most interesting like journey you ended up doing that you taught while you were on that journey?
mm, I think probably the Taiwan one. Like it was a 2 day, like almost, I guess, 200-kilometer trip. And I stopped in like this little port town, like in the northern edge of Taiwan, and I taught a few classes there. And then I went back to Taipei. That was probably the most memorable. Like, I guess in terms of like scenic and off the wall route, while being able to teach. Um, and that's a route that I want to do again like hopefully in the future before I croak. Um, and we'll see. Maybe I'll go back and maybe teach in that same city again.
That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. And so you kind of described your average work week. Now there are probably some teachers out there that are new parents also, like yourself. How do you balance work life while teaching?
Sorry, Dave, can you repeat that? You said that some teachers that what? Sorry.
That are probably also new parents and trying to get into this
Oh,
because they want the freedom and flexibility. So, like, how does your work-life balance pan out?
it's not easy. Like, and I think as you're a parent, I'm a parent. I think we're not special because there's millions of us that have to deal with these kind of like day-to-day circumstances of raising a child or children. So I'm very fortunate that I can control my schedule. I think that's another good thing about teaching independently online. Is why I cap it at about 25 hours a week. I could teach more if I want to. I do have a waiting list. I'm not saying that like in a like bragging way, but I do have like a waiting list. But like it for me, like to see the day-to-day life of my daughter, like grow up and like accomplish and achieve new things, like the little milestones. I'm sure you experience it as well with your son. Um, for me, that's more important than trying to teach like over the top or like to the point where I get exhausted or burned out. So I feel very fortunate that I am able to control my schedule, but at the same time spend time with my wife, help out with like chores. If not, we're gonna drown like in all the like pile of chores that they pile up fast, right? You got to keep your head
Oh,
above
yeah.
water. Uh, um, so yeah, I think that's the only thing really that has changed is my free time like has gone to almost zero. And like before my daughter was born last year, like I worked a lot on like curriculum on the website and also on like teachers pay teachers, but also like on the website. And I haven't had as much time to do that. Like and it's hard to find consistency to work on that. So I mean, I do think there is kind of some balance. It could be worse. So I am thankful at the end of the day that I'm able to control my schedule where I don't feel like the sense of getting like, get burned out. But yeah, just things that you want to do are no longer a priority or like it's no longer on like the top of the list in terms of like things that need to get done. So
Yes, definitely. And trust me, it does get better. You're in that first year of parenting, and it
I've
is
heard that
really,
like, yeah, I heard it gets better.
it's not always instant and it's never back to the way it was. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of cool, rewarding things that are still ahead of you. Mine's 10, so we've gone through some crazy stuff, and now we're getting ready to go into teen years. So,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of people who get a little nervous hearing about traveling to places that are unfamiliar outside the US, outside their comfort zone. Um, Now, what is, if you don't mind sharing, what's like the quality of life that you have in South Korea? Like 25 hours a week of teaching people are like, what? That's like part-time work. And people get a little scared and wonder, what's his quality of life look like in type situations?
Um, I mean, I think I don't know. I don't like the whole idea of like 40 hours full time, anything less part time. Like I don't like how we like I don't want to say arbitrary number on that, but like, you know, 25 hours for me in South Korea, like it's more than enough to get my daily necessities, pay like the, general bills that you have to pay and still have a little bit to save. So for me, like quality of life in Korea is doing like online teaching is exceptional because the average actually in Korea, the average work week is legally 52 hours. And actually the government is actually trying to push it to 69 hours a week. So like for me, I have nothing to complain about. So when I'm with my friends saying like, oh, you only teach 25 hours a week, blah, 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 like how do you blah, 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 like exactly what you just said a minute ago. Like I've had friends who have said that. For me, like I am fully content. And I think that's the most important thing if you focus on the internal. And as long as your internal is in sync with, I guess, where you are and maybe where you want to be down the road, like that's nothing else matters.
Yeah. Every country seems to have different standards of living, different comfort levels. We found places with I mean, 25, I work about the same amount as you do, 25 hours a week. And beautiful, beautiful places. Um, Never have to really want for food. It's not like the US where 25 hours a week doesn't really go very far, unless you got
Right,
yourself a
right.
stock trading job, type situation. So, yeah. So I always tell people, give it a shot. Go try out a new place and you can see for yourself how much further your money does go, especially if you're charging your students in dollars, which most of us teachers seem to, type situation. Hmm. So I was curious, you've talked about some of your coolest experiences. Have you ever had any like really rough experiences while teaching traveling?
Um, Not really. Like not really. Like I feel like I plan everything not thoroughly, but like well enough where there's no major hiccups that are out of my control. Like I haven't really had any issues, fortunately.
Mhm.
So in that regard, I don't think I really have anything that I can share in that regard.
Hey, that's good for you.
Yeah,
How did like the when COVID happened and you were still overseas at the time, right?
yes, correct.
So how did that affect your teaching? Did you teach more? Did you teach less? What happened for you at that point?
Uh, I taught more actually because, at the time COVID was this new disease or whatever you want to call it. And, it obviously was hampering like the students in China and they had nothing to do. So, like I think for the teachers who taught a lot of classes or it was kind of a bit easier for them to get bookings if they open up the slots, they generally teach more. So, I was one of those that took teaching more. Yeah, I taught, I don't know, maybe an extra 5 to 7 hours a week off and on
Hmm,
during like 2021. So I definitely rode the wave, took advantage, and taught a bit more.
right. And then what, 15, 18 months later, the whole thing came down to the political stuff from China, and most of these online companies had to stop employing us. How did you pivot at
Mhm.
that point?
I felt like I was probably going to be okay. Now, was also still a bit nervous at the same time about the uncertainty, or like will government like crack down on your and like ban you from teaching like students online, independently, or like will like foreign like people's like WeChat IDs become banned, like things
Mhm.
like that. Like those kind of things kind of like worried me a little bit. Um, but in terms of like pivoting, I wasn't too concerned because I had built up like the contact list from previous years. And in the end, that combined with finding the small teaching company in Korea, um, fortunately, the pivot was pretty smooth. I
Mhm.
don't think it could have gone any better, honestly. So it worked out in the end.
That's good. Sounds like you were prepared. You already had your list of students and contacts ready. Some people were caught a little off guard and weren't able to have everything ready to go. Um, Now, you said you also have a list of students that are like a waiting list. Do you do any marketing at all, or is it just mainly word of mouth between your students sharing your information?
Um, I've never done any marketing. What I did do as things were like spiraling downhill, and when like VIPKid and the other companies were kind of coming down to an end, I did make a big group, like a WeChat group of like over 100 parents. Can't remember the exact number. But I didn't do any active marketing. Usually, parents were actually using that to like talk to each other about like what customer service was saying, like blah blah blah, like whether or not they were, they're like, oh, like that they said like if we switched however many active classes, we'll get 3 times the amount of the pre-recorded AI classes. So it was beneficial for the parents to kind of like find out what's going on. Because some of
Mhm.
them were totally like clueless. Like some of them were like
Yeah,
in the dark. Um, and some of them they did kind of mention like in the chat group, like, oh, Brian, are you teaching independently? Blah blah blah. And then like that kind of helped a little bit, I think. So creating that group did help. But in terms of active marketing, like no, I haven't done any like active marketing. I did do a little bit on Chinese TikTok. That was actually with VIPKid though, there was a few teachers that were picked to like do that. So I did that for a few months, and I actually did have one parent like reach out and say like, "Can you teach like independently?" But again, I wasn't fishing for that. It just
right.
kind of like happened, and I didn't. I think I just said no, sorry, or something at the time. But yeah, no, no, no. Fortunately, I haven't had to do any like active marketing for myself.
Right. So how did all of this pivot into you making some of your own lessons? Because I know you've got your intermediate and advanced lessons.
I've always wanted to create lessons. It was kind of just something that I've always enjoyed doing. Like even making like, when I think about university, like projects, making PPTs, making kind of flashy, like kind of catchy, appealing. Like that's always been kind of interesting, an interest of mine. And that's kind of what I wanted to do when I thought I was going to come back to Portland in late 2016. And that's always been in the back of my mind, like that'd be cool if I could try to do it. Actually, before it out, I actually did teach two students independently.
Mhm.
Starting was 20. They had finished their contracts with VIPKid. They weren't going to continue, and they just said, like, can we just do it independently? And I felt like I wasn't crossing any, I doing anything wrong. It wasn't me like asking them to be my students, and they were finishing up, had no more classes left. So actually, with those first two students is when I actually started making lessons. For them. And then I just kind of built it up over time. And then when things closed down, like, okay, like I can actually use these lessons for some of my other students who are like at the intermediate and advanced level. And that's when I started really like making them for a period of about 6 months before my daughter came into this world. Since then, it's kind of been off and on. But yeah, and it's really fun. Like I don't feel like it's something that like it's like a drag or like, oh, I gotta do it. Like it's really fun for me, and I want it to be engaging and presentable. And I feel like everything is on me in a sense in terms of what I'm teaching students. And I want it to be just not something where you memorize something or facts or history and you just regurgitate it. I want it to be like about life or like things that I've like picked up like in my, during my times of traveling or just what I've learned and what I think is important. But a lot of what they do learn in schools is just like for a piece of paper and a number on it. And I don't want it to be about that. So yeah, that's kind of, I guess, yeah, my lessons really did start, I guess, in late 2020. And I just kind of made it more of a serious thing since then, especially after VIPKid shut down.
How many lessons do you have at this point?
Between 100 to 200 and maybe 125, 130. Now I know I only have the pros and cons like on the website. I have the filters, but I think like tweaking it to where I can put everything in there will take a lot of time and it's hard, really hard to find consistency right now. At one point, I do want to like that on there, and then like the other remaining lessons that I do have.
Ah,
But yeah, in total, I think about somewhere between 100 to 125.
oh, so many lessons. How have you found time to make all of these lessons?
So
Because you have
like,
good quality. Yeah.
yeah, like again, I don't know, just I would plan my wife for around 11, and then literally from 11 to I don't know 1:32, I just be up like just doing it. Like at the time, I'm just going. I'm just going. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it. It's kind of like I'm in the zone
Yeah.
and I'm just like doing it. It's fun. Like I enjoy it.
Which I enjoy myself. Do you have a favorite one that you've created?
Um, I really like the ones that kind of delve into the future, like pros and cons, like robots, like what life would be like with robots, where I created a few scenarios that I think could happen and are happening, and just like having this in the lesson, it has the students explain what's happening in the scenario, and then kind of sharing their general thoughts about it, whether it's good or bad, why or why not. It's probably like my favorite one, but just anything in general that has to do with the unknown. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just what how do you interpret this playing out in 20 years or 30 years or whatever timeline we're thinking about. Those are probably my favorite lessons to create.
Yeah. And people who don't know that one, I think that one is free on the site right now also, for people to check out and try that robots one.
Hmm.
So, and I think we'll have it linked here at the bottom as well for people to take a look at. So, all right. Well, what tips do you have for people who either want to pick a home base abroad and they want to find the right place for them? What kind of tips do you have?
Um, First, I think like if I think it's easier for teachers who have like kind of stepped outside of their bubble and kind of experienced a different type of culture or different type of environment landscape. Because like for me, when I was an exchange student, like it was literally in the boonies in Korea. There were no like English signs outside of our university. So like things like that, I think really helped me to become like I guess the traveler that I was for a period of time. Like I didn't really have really feeling solo. Like, obviously if when I cycled and maybe like I would cycle near like a small highway or something like that, I cross my fingers that no truck or someone's going to accidentally like, not pay attention and just like hit me, things like that. But I think teachers have already experienced sense of maybe discomfort or being outside of their bubble. I think that's obviously helpful. By understanding like where you need to pay is also important because I feel like sometimes when teachers ask for help in that regard in some posts, sometimes there is just crickets or there's not a lot of comments. And also because maybe teachers don't know. Um, and so I think that's also something that teachers should have at least some sense of idea on. I mean, it's not like you earn like whatever $40 an hour and it's $40 an hour. Like that's before taxes. Um, and just I guess understand the cost of living, just understand if ever you're whether it's 6 months, um, just the general surroundings. When you get there, just know, just kind of get an idea of where things are. Um, I think you should ask for help when you need help, but don't at the same time don't be a leech. Like, make sure that you do wherever you are, like make sure that you do have the necessary funds in case there is a unfortunate event that happens that's outside of your control. Um, I think that's probably most of it.
Yeah, it sounds like you touched on a lot of good issues there. I guess kind of the last thing then is there one unexpected thing or challenging thing that's popped up from having to teach abroad that you probably would want people to be aware of?
Um, Challenging events teaching abroad. Um, Not really. Just make sure, like, so when I taught, when I taught in Portland for 6 months and then brought VIPKid back to Korea in 2017, like I had two laptops. So and there were a few times where one of my laptop did go kaput temporarily. So I think just make sure that you have a backup device. Um, and Wi-Fi is, but if you do have like a cell phone or like data on your phone, make sure you can use that as a backup. I guess just make sure that you have a backup for everything in case something like doesn't work at that time. I even had two webcams for a period of time as well, because I actually had one that like just like died on me in one of my classes one time. So like I guess just make sure that you just prepare in advance because sometimes these things do happen when you leave when you don't expect them to happen. So just expect the unexpected.
Expect the unexpected. Yes. Excellent advice. Excellent advice. How about some parting advice for those who want to start creating their own lessons and getting them out there, whether they're doing it for themselves or whether they just want to make some side income on that?
I think posting free samples and or like maybe posting a few free lessons and getting feedback from teachers would be maybe the first thing that I would do. And that's actually what I did. I think beginning of last year. I like posted a few free samples. These were lessons that I already had my students use, but like I wanted to hear from perspective of other teachers. Um, I think also don't expect your first lesson to like don't have the I guess perfectionist mindset because then if you have that mindset, you're either going to take forever or you might not even start or you might just waste your time. Just just I don't know, just open up PowerPoint or Google Drive or whatever it is that you use make your lessons and just make a lesson and then share it for free and see what the teachers say. See what the people say because that's the market essentially. If you do end up selling it online and then you can get the feedback and then use it to better yourself and better the lessons that you're creating.
Excellent advice. Yeah. Te- Teachers are smart. And they know what they need to do to teach their students. So they do give good feedback. I love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hmm. All right. Well, thank you for your time today, Brian. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share with everybody today?
Um, Really just like, you know, just be happy. And David, again, thank you for having me on here. It was a pleasure chatting with you and yeah, just be happy.
Be happy. I like that's great parting advice. All right. Well, thank you, Brian. It's been a pleasure, and I'm sure that we'll have some people taking a look at your materials. Again, he's got the pros and cons on the site right now. Uh, Intent on adding other stuff as he gets more time. So, thank you again, Brian. And yeah, we will be in touch, I'm sure.
Sounds good, David. Sounds good. Thanks again.
Thank you.